Foreign Minister Lavrov sat down and did an interview with Tucker the other day. Pretty decent interview. Of course, I'll link it in this. It's pretty important that we pay attention to what Lavrov has to say about many things. Some things you can debunk or discount right away. That's basically what will happen here with this first clip, and isn't just him.
However, we also know that some officials in the Pentagon and in other places, including NATO, they started saying in the last few days something like, well, NATO is a defensive alliance, but sometimes you can strike first because the attack is the best defense. Some others in Stratcom, I think, Buchanan is his name, representative of Stratcom, he said something which allows for an eventuality of exchange of limited nuclear strikes.
What he's referring to is NATO Admiral Bauer, and I'll link the article in this. NATO Admiral Bauer came out with basically outlining the NATO strategy. And one of the things he said, and this is being misinterpreted in a lot of places, as NATO saying they would have no problem with a first strike. That's not what he said. It is a discussion that is relatively young in NATO, and I'm very happy that we've had it, and we've now had the attitude to change. The idea is that we are a defensive alliance. We'll only sit and wait until we are attacked, and when we are attacked, we'll be able to shoot down the arrows that come at us. But it's smarter not only to do that, but also to attack the archer. That is in Russia, if Russia attacks us. Again, what they're saying is, what Admiral Bauer is saying is if that a Russian attack on NATO territory, NATO would respond. Well, duh. I think we all already know that. It's not exactly a mystery. But I found it amazing that, again, people are looking to that quote, and I'll provide the link in the description. People are looking to that quote as saying, well, NATO will first strike, or the Russians are ready to first strike. It makes no bloody sense. It really doesn't.
Minsk agreements. Ukraine would be one piece minus Crimea. But even then, when Ukrainians, after we started the operation, suggested to negotiate, we agreed. There were several rounds in Belarus, and one later they moved to Istanbul. And in Istanbul, Ukrainian delegation put a paper on the table saying those are the principles on which we are ready to agree. And we accepted those principles.
The Minsk principles.
No, the Istanbul principles.
Yes.
That was April 22.
Right.
Which was no NATO, but security guarantees to Ukraine collectively provided with the participation of Russia. And these security guarantees would not cover Crimea or the east of Ukraine. It was their proposal. And it was initialed. And the head of the Ukrainian delegation in Istanbul, who is now the chair of the Zelensky faction in the parliament, he recently, a few months ago, in an interview, he confirmed that this was the case. And on the basis of these principles, we were ready to draft a treaty. But then this gentleman who headed the Ukrainian delegation in Istanbul, he said that Boris Johnson visited and told them to continue to fight. Then there was...
But Boris Johnson, on behalf of...
He said no, but, you know, the guy who initialed the paper, He said it was Boris Johnson.
Boris Johnson, the then Prime Minister of Great Britain, flew over and told the Ukrainians, don't sign this peace treaty. Continue to fight. We will back you. NATO will back you. I just want to point out that Ukraine has admitted this treaty is real. Russia has admitted this treaty is real. The U.S. has admitted this treaty is real. There was peace. There was a proposal for peace before hundreds of thousands of people got killed. Before hundreds of thousands of people got killed, there was peace. There could have been peace. This is on Boris Johnson in a lot of ways. A lot of ways this is on Boris Johnson. It's stunning that the world has yet to see it. It's my hope that the truth will be unveiled to the world. It's hard to do in Europe, but here, Bojo is responsible for a lot of this. I'm setting something right now, I'm sorry. But get a little bit more into this.
To get information.
Why do you think, so many threads, but why do you think that Boris Johnson, former Prime Minister of the UK, would have stopped the peace process in Istanbul? On whose behalf was he doing that?
Well, I met with him a couple of times, and I wouldn't be surprised if he was motivated by some immediate desire or by some long-term strategy. He is not very predictable.
Okay. Do you think he was acting on behalf of the U.S. government, on behalf of the Biden administration? He was doing this independently? I mean,
I don't know. I don't know, and I wouldn't guess. The fact that the Americans and the Brits are leading in this quote-unquote situation is obvious. Now it is becoming also clear that there is a fatigue in some capitals, and there are talks every now and then that the Americans would like to leave it with the Europeans and to concentrate on something more important. I wouldn't guess. We would be judging by specific steps. It's obvious though that Biden administration would like to leave a legacy to the Trump administration as bad as they can.
yes.
And similar to what Obama did to Trump during his first term, when late December 2016, Obama expelled Russian diplomats, just very late December, 120 persons with family members, did it on purpose, demanded them on leave on the day when there was no direct flight from Washington, so they had to move to New York by buses with all their luggage, with children, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, Obama announced the arrest of pieces of diplomatic property of Russia. And we still never were able to come and see what is the state of this Russian property. They never allowed us to come and see, though, under all convention. They just say that these pieces we don't consider as being covered by diplomatic immunity, which is a unilateral decision, never substantiated by any international court.
So you believe the Biden administration is doing something similar again to the incoming Trump administration?
Because that episode with the expulsion and the seizure of property certainly did not create the promising ground for beginning of our relations with the Trump administration. So I think they're doing the same.
But this time, President Trump was elected on the explicit promise to bring an end to the war in Ukraine. So, I mean, he said that in appearance after appearance. So given that, there is hope for a resolution, it sounds like. What are the terms to which you'd agree?
Well, the terms, I basically alluded to them when President Putin spoke in this ministry on the 14th of June. He once again reiterated that we were ready to negotiate on the basis of the principles which were agreed in Istanbul and rejected by Boris Johnson, according to the statement of the head of the Ukrainian delegation. The key principle is no non-bloc status of Ukraine, and we would be ready to be part of the group of countries who would provide collective security guarantees to
No
Ukraine.
NATO.
No NATO, absolutely, no military bases, no military exercises on the Ukrainian soil with participation of foreign troops. And this is something which he reiterated. But of course, he said it was April 2022. Now some time has passed. And the realities on the ground would have to be taken into account and accepted. The realities on the ground are not only the line of contact, but also the changes in the Russian constitution after referendum was held in Donetsk, Lugansk republics and Kherson and Zaporozhye regions.
Yes.
And they are now part of the Russian Federation according to the constitution, and this is a reality. And of course, we cannot tolerate a deal which would keep the legislation, which I quoted, prohibiting Russian language, Russian media, Russian culture, Ukrainian Orthodox Church, because it is a violation of the obligations of Ukraine under the UN Charter, and somebody must be done about it. And the fact that the West, since this Russophobic legislative offensive started in 2017, since the West was totally silent, and it is silent until now, of course, we would have to pay attention to this in a very special way.
I wanted to make sure that was left in because he goes through something very important there, that they are purposely making it hard on the Trump administration. We all knew that. It's obvious. It's the same thing they did to the first Trump administration, like he's saying the Obama administration, evicting all of the Russian diplomats in December, making it incredibly difficult to begin any relationship with the Trump administration and the Russian Federation through the embassy. And now they're doing what? They're basically trying to light the world on fire. I mean, that's essentially what this is. They're trying to light the world on fire. They don't care. Let the world burn. They're willing to let the world burn. It blows my mind how more people don't see this. They are trying to make it hard for Trump. They're trying to make the world burn. And why is Britain doing this? It seems like a continuation of the British anti-Russian policy of centuries ago. The Great Game, if you will. Just incredible. Just incredible. Just one more very small clip. I certainly hope that people take the time to watch this interview. It is very important. It does stretch out in some places, but he is a good communicator, and he is communicating what Putin thinks quite clearly, and we need to be listening.
Like, he's so childish, unbelievable.
So you said that when in 2016 in December, the Obama administration left a bunch of bombs basically for the incoming Trump administration. In the last month since the election, you have all sorts of things going on politically in bordering states in this region that, in Georgia and Belarus, in Romania, and then, of course, most dramatically in Syria, you have turmoil. Does this seem like part of an effort by the United States to make the resolution more difficult?
I don't really think he needs to answer that. I think the answer is obvious. It sure is coincidental that it all starts up in the last 30 days, 45 days, basically since the election or just prior to it when it was obvious how it was going to go. It's pretty obvious that there's a group of people who are really trying to light the world on fire and make it impossible for Trump to get peace, which is going to make this even more amazing when he does. Peace, baby. Stay sour.